So, the purchasing and payment cycle activities is divided into two phases. We have the physical phase and the financial phase. Once we talk about physical phase, it involves the acquisition of inventory. So in the physical phase, yun yung purchasing activities. While the financial phase, it is about the disbursement of cash or payment of cash in relation to the acquisition of the inventory. So, yung financial phase, yun yung payment activities. Okay? So, the purchasing and payment cycle activities are divided into two different phases. The physical phase, which is about the acquisition of inventory, and the financial phase is about the disbursement of cash in relation to the acquired inventory. Okay, in an ordinary course of business operation, um, merong mga basic steps on purchasing. Okay? Pero, hindi po ito limited on these steps because kung masyadong comprehensive or complicated ang isang business organization, it may add other activities on the purchasing um, in order for the purpose of giving it more strict internal control. Pero itong mga purchasing activities na basic steps that I will provide you, this is the most common whether complicated na mga business organizations or business models or yung mga simple na mga business models. Okay? So, the purchasing activities basic steps begins with the purchase requisition. Okay? In purchase requisition, ito yung step wherein a we um, we try to determine what are the required inventories, okay, or if it is a supply, what are the supplies needed, okay. In a purchase requisitions na step, dito po natin nilalatag kung ano yung mga kakulangan ng mga inventory or what inventories um, needed to be ordered in a particular supplier. So, this is documented by a purchase requisition form. Um, the purchase requisition form is prepared depending on the structure of the business. If it is a merchandising type of business, it is the inventory control department. If it is a manufacturing type of business, it is the production planning and control. In merchandising business, it is only the inventory control department because the inventory control department, siya naman yung nakaka-assess kung kulang na yung inventories subject for sale. So, that particular department is responsible on preparing the purchasing requisition form para i-stipulate how many inventories are needed to purchase or to acquire. In manufacturing business, it is the production planning and control department. Because in a manufacturing business, remember, a finished good inventory is undergoes into three different processes. From raw materials to work in process goes to the finished goods inventory. Well, kung the production planning and control department prepares the purchase requisition form because yung requirement for raw materials for the production of the particular finished good inventory magsisimula sa production. Okay? So, the preparation of the purchase requisition form or the purchase requisition is prepared by the production planning. These are the departments only authorized to prepare this requisition form. Sir, how about if we're not talking about inventories here, we are just talking about a simple an ordinary supply. Usually, kung mga supply lang to, office supplies, kung sino po yung departamento asking for that particular supply, it is the department, no, will prepare the purchase requisition form. For example, an accounting department um, is asking for a supply of um, coupon bands, ledgers, journal sheets. Well, it is the department itself will prepare the purchase requisition form. Okay? Itong inventory control and production planning and control departments, um, they are only authorized, no, on the acquisition or purchasing of of determining of how many number of inventories shall be purchased, no. Hindi na po yan kasama yung as to supplies of a different departments. Okay, after the purchase requisition, no, is being prepared, it is then, okay, the next thing that the purchasing activity will do is the preparation of the purchase order or the generation of the purchase order. If the purchase requisition form is approved, no, okay, by the authorized personnel, okay, it will immediately prepare the purchase order. Meaning the purchase order, that is the simula kung saan um, you are formally asking, okay, the supplier. Kasi yung purchase requisition pa lang is asking the company that let us acquire this. Yung purchase order generation na step, it is the process wherein you are already asking a supplier that you are going to order to them. That's the purchase order. Mag-iba po ang purchase requisition to purchase order generation. Pero bago magkaroon ng purchase order, it must have the purchase requisition because that is the supporting document that the purchase order na ginagawa mo is authorized. Okay? So that's it. A purchase order determines the price, the quality of materials, and the vendability of making deliveries. In a purchase order, guys, we try to identify the price, the quantity of materials needed. Okay? Kasi naka-stipulate naman sa purchase order kung magkano ang presyo ng bawat isang inventory na kailangan ng supply, okay, or raw materials in a particular production na needed. And we are in a purchase order, we also provide, no, the credit terms, okay, that we ask from suppliers. We also provide, no, we try also to provide the date, okay, when it is subject for delivery to the company. The document for purchase order generation is the purchase order. Okay, that's the purchase order document. Meron naman pong tinatawag na blanket purchase order. Yung sinasabing blanket purchase order refers to the um, purchase order na pang 1 year yon, no, pang 1 year siya na um, gamitan, no. Pero in my practice, no, on the purchasing activities when I was in a particular company, yung purchase order parang every time na merong purchase, may purchase order. I did not encounter a blanket purchase order. Take note, the preparation of the purchase order or the blanket purchase order is made by the purchasing department. The purchasing department has the sole authority to prepare the purchase order. Okay? But, sir, magpareho po ba si inventory control department at si purchasing department? Mag-iba po yun. Okay? The inventory control or the production planning control is the one asking for the order. The purchasing department is preparing the purchase order asking from the suppliers. Mag-iba po yun. Kailangan magkaiba for the purpose of internal control. Okay? Kasi pag magkaisa si purchase requisition, or si inventory control department at si purchasing department, may tendency that fraud will exist. Okay? There is tendency that fraud will exist. Okay? So we need to prevent that. Okay? The third basic step on the purchasing activity is receiving and storage of order, assuming that no, after the requisition of the inventory and then the generation of the purchase order, you have already asked the supplier to deliver those um, inventories to your company. It is the third step that you need to do is the receiving and storage of those orders. It is very important. This is a very important step. Kasi the receiving and the storage step of order, I mean, is that it is the time you actually receive your orders, okay? Um, orders, and you are going to store your orders in a particular in a particular or designated place. In yung iba, for example, they have warehouses wherein the receiving and the storage orders are being made. So, what is the responsibility of the receiving department? Okay, of the receiving department. Okay, the responsibility of the receiving department, which is different from the purchasing department. Okay, again, iba-iba pong departamento to for the purpose of internal control. Is letter A, the existence of a valid purchase order. Before the receiving department receives the order coming from a coming from a specific supplier, it is their responsibility to validate if there is an existing valid purchase order. Kasi if there is no valid purchase order existing, it means they are not required to receive that particular inventories na dumating sa receiving department. Okay? Take note of that. Um, Kasi, remember, the valid purchase order is a supplementary, that is a supporting document, okay? Or a go signal from the receiving department saying, receive that because that order is authorized. That order is authorized. Okay? The next responsibility of the receiving department is the verification. So, verification in a sense that um, he, for considering no, there is a valid purchase order na pinakita, okay? Or meron kang hinahawakan na valid purchase order. Pangalawang gagawin ni receiving department is to verify whether the what is being written in the purchase order and at kung ano yung dumating are pareho. For example, in the purchase order, no, a valid purchase order provides that it must have 100 um, 100 pieces of abaka. Okay? That's a raw material, no? That's the purchase order. The purchase order is stating that dapat merong 100 um, pieces, okay, of abaka strips, okay? However, upon verification, no, okay, you have identified that what have no, yung kung ano yung dumating is not 100 pieces. So, you need to verify that. You need to check. And then another thing that you have identified is that parang iba yung presyo from the delivery receipt to the purchase order. So you need to verify that the purchase order and what was been delivered, okay, subject for your receive is the same, because this will protect the company from any losses, okay, in the future. Yun po yung purpose nun. Another responsibility of the receiving department is to examine defects, no? Examination of defects. Okay, hindi lang po i-verify at i-check if there is an existing valid purchase order. It is also the responsibility of the receiving department to examine if the particular inventory being acquired is free from any defects. Okay? Why? Because para bago siya pumasok sa company, okay, the company will um, the company will not incur losses from those defects. Okay? Kasi pag hindi po ma-examine, for example, raw materials um, used for the production of a um, computer computer, kung yung mga wirings needed in the production of that particular computer, okay, or electronic materials um, needed in the production of that particular computer is defective, at the mangyayari nun during the production stage, of the particular inventory, magkakaroon po ng maraming losses. Okay? Magkakaroon po ng maraming losses. Tendency, baka hindi na yan mai-refund. So, we need to examine carefully, okay, the orders, um, na tatanggapin natin. Later, the document required on the receiving department is the receiving report. The receiving report will stipulate how many is being received, okay, from the supplier, okay, and then you will provide remarks related to that receiving report, okay, stating that the orders that were received are in good condition, etc., etc. The receiving report is very important, okay, particularly on the accounts payable section. Take note, the receiving report with attached purchase order and purchase requisition form is being um, ano ba yan? Will be forwarded to the accounts payable department for the purpose of recording the existence of accounts payable. Okay? Kasi remember, in accrual basis of accounting, we record purchases and its corresponding account, okay, yung kapares niya na account, which is accounts payable, upon receipt of the inventory. So, after receiving, a receiving report is made and it will be forwarded to the accounts payable department, and then you as the receiving department will um, forward the inventories received, okay, to a particular department wherein storage are being made. Okay? The fourth step is the approval of invoice for payment. Okay, ito na yun po yun. Before a check is made, dapat meron pong approval of invoice for payment. So, um, the approval of invoice for payment is a way of reconciling the purchase order and the receiving report. We need to reconcile the purchase order and the receiving report, because baka kasi the purchase order is saying the total value of purchase of purchases based on the purchase order is 1 million, but what actually received is less than 1 million. So we need to reconcile that. What is the cost of the difference, no? What is the cost of the difference? Okay? So for example, pag you have the purchase order and the receiving report, you need to determine ano kaya reasons bakit marami ang dineliver o kulang ang dineliver, okay, based on the records that you have. From that time, once reconciliation was made, no, or already naisagawa na yon, a disbursement voucher is prepared. Okay? No, a disbursement voucher is prepared assuming that a company is using the voucher system. Pero there are instances naman that companies are not using the voucher system. They use the non-voucher system. Ano po ba yung pagkakaiba ng voucher system sa non-voucher system? The voucher system, okay, requires the the preparation of the disbursement voucher, okay, and then the disbursement voucher, okay, will be the source, no, to, okay, or the document that will support that the disbursing department is authorized to prepare the check. In a non-voucher system naman, there is a barang from the time from the time that you acquire, no, from the time you have that, okay, the you just get the invoice, and then you prepare the check immediately without the voucher, okay. Pero in most common, no, no, the most common is the voucher system, okay, because the voucher system provides, no, audit trail. Yun yung maganda yung sa disbursement voucher system, okay. So who approves the payment of the invoice, no, okay. Well, for subsidiary level, before the approval of the said invoices, the accounts payable department approves vendor for payment and do the recording to the purchase journal. Okay. Because the accounts payable department is responsible of reconciling or adjusting the accounts payable account per subsidiary. Okay. So, the accounts payable department is responsible whether or not the supplier is approved for payment already. Okay, he is responsible. That department is responsible for that activity, and that department is also responsible on recording the the purchasing activity in the purchase journal. Okay, the general ledger department naman, okay, the general ledger department naman, from the word general ledger, siya naman yung nagre-reconcile of the journal vouchers prepared by the accounts payable, I mean by the general journal, no, by the particular department from accounts payable, and the summary journal from inventory control. So, the general ledger department, okay, prepare lang niya kung magkano yung total balance of accounts payable, which is being reconciled to the purchase journals, no, of each supplier. If the general ledger um, shows that this is a 1 million, ano yung laman ng 1 million? Sinong mga subsidiaries ito? Which is reconciled with the subsidiary journals, okay, prepared by the accounts payable department. So that is the approval of invoice for payment. So yung approval of invoice for payment is different for the approval of check. Yung approval of invoice for payment refers pa lang na this purchase is subject for payment already. Ibig sabihin, you are already saying, boss, dapat na po itong bayaran. Yun po yung ibig sabihin, no, na the approval of invoice for payment. Hindi po yung approval for invoice for payment sinasabing bayaran, we need to prepare the check already. Yung sinasabi ng approval of invoice for payment, parang this is a go signal for the disbursement department to prepare the check, because itong mga inutangan natin is legit, okay, existing, okay. So that is the purpose of approval of invoice for payment, okay. For example, no, um, you receive the purchase order, you receive the purchase order, the purchase order, then later on, okay, before you prepare the disbursement voucher, no, okay, which is the document stating that this is already for for preparation of check, okay, assuming that it is already signed by the authorized personals. um, Parang sinasabi mo na yun sa disbursement department na okay na po ito lahat, na-receive na po, wala na pong mga defects, and then pwede na siyang um, gawa ng cheque kasi authorized to disburse na po tayo. That is the approval of invoice for payment. Okay? The next is payment of approved invoices. Okay? Payment of approved invoices is the last step, no, of the purchasing and payment cycle. The payment of approved invoices refers, okay, una, we need the voucher package. The voucher package is a document that it is the disbursing officer or the disbursement department is authorized to pay that supplier because the voucher package shows all documents, okay, the purchase order, the purchase requisition form, the receiving report, okay. Yung tatlong yon ay part of the um, sinasawag natin mga supporting document to the disbursement voucher prepared by the accounts payable department. Okay? So that's the package, okay? Ibig sabihin itong mga from the purchase requisition down to accounts payable, the voucher package compose those documents, okay? Because this will give no more weight no that the particular um, purchase is subject for payment talaga. Okay? So, the cash disbursement department once received the voucher package, no, prepares the check. Okay? So, gagawa siya ng cheque, no, napapapirmahan niya. Okay? Para at least maging negotiable yung check. Okay? Who prepares? The cash disbursement department prepares the check and it is subject for signature of the treasurer of the company. In most certain cases, no, um, in in a corporation, usually hindi lang po treasurer yung pumipirma sa check. Usually dalawa po ang gumagawa o pumipirma sa check. Sometimes the treasurer and then the chief operating officer or other officers, okay, that is being authorized. Pero pinaka-importante po sa lahat na pumirma sa cheque si treasurer because the treasurer is the one, no, who supervise, okay, the existence of cash in the company, okay, if the company is able to pay its liabilities. Okay, so that's the the payment, how checks are being prepared. So again, the approval of invoice is the one who prepares the voucher package because the voucher package is the document authorizing the disbursement department to prepare the check. Once the disbursement department receive the voucher package, the disbursement department prepares the check for the purpose na mapapirma sa treasurer. Once the treasurer signed the check, it means that anytime it is subject for release to the supplier. General Ledger Department, how in this step, meron pa rin, no, responsibility si General Ledger Department. Why? Because the General Ledger Department will reconcile payment to the accounts payable. Okay. Kasi once check are being released, matatakan na po yung voucher. Okay, the voucher package na released, paid already, dapat si General Ledger i-reconcile niya naman yon sa accounts payable niya. Itutugma niya kasi dapat the accounts payable that we have, no, in the ledger account, dapat bababa naman siya kasi meron na pong actual payment of payables para at least, okay, mangyari that the general ledger account of accounts payable including the subsidiary ledger will be updated time to time. Okay, so that is the purpose of Why general ledger department is very important on the payment of approved invoices. Okay? So, those are the most common activities in the purchasing and payment cycle. Okay. Our next topic will be about the controls on purchasing and payment activities. Okay. On the purchasing and cash disbursement controls, it is very important, guys, that every transaction is authorized. Transaction is authorized. Okay. Transaction authorization or authorized. Why? This is very important, no? Okay, before a purchasing and payment is made, dapat the transaction per purchase is authorized. Without the authorization of that purchase and payment, okay, ibig sabihin that activity is illegitimate. So we need that particular control. Take note in big companies now, before a purchase order is made, it is required that there is a purchase requisition form. And the purchase requisition form is signed by authorized personnel. Because the authorized personnel, if the authorized personnel signs that requisition form, it means that the transaction of asking for additional inventory is legitimate. Okay? It is very important, no, in the purchasing and payment activities that the transaction, okay, the purchasing transaction and the payment transaction is authorized. The authority will depend on the particular department. The next, we have the segregation of duties, no. Another control that is being required, no, to control that is being required in the purchasing department and payment is the segregation of duty or responsibility. Okay? So, segregation, okay, of duties. Okay? If you are going to observe, no, from the different steps that we have, okay, the basic steps that I illustrated, each step has a different department because for the purpose of segregating the duties. Why it is important that we need to segregate duties? Kasi, for example, the requisition and the purchasing, hindi pwedeng pag-iisahin. Hindi rin pwedeng pag-isahin si accounts payable at si purchasing department. Why? Because we need to prevent, the existence of conspiracy, okay, existence of conspiracy in making fraudulent acts. Kasi pag mag-isa si accounts payable department at si payment, si the cash disbursement, posible yung mangyari po nun, no? Okay. Mamanipulahin ni accounts payable yung balanse, papalakihin niya para lumabas, malaki yung babayaran. At the end, may kickback na pala siya. Okay? So, we need to segregate duties to prevent those fraudulent acts. That is one control that we need to do. Hindi po pwedeng pag-isahin lahat ng mga activities in one department. Because may tendency na pag-controlled po niya lahat from requisition to order to etc. May tendency that that particular person preparing those tasks, lahat ng tasks, will make, a fraudulent act that will make or that will result losses on the part of the company. Okay? The third is supervision, no? Supervision. Okay? The third control is supervision. Okay? Supervision naman refers to that each department is supervised, no? Okay? Dapat meron pong nagsusupervise whether, okay, the activities being conducted or is legitimate or in accordance with the policy of the institution. So that is very important that there is a supervision. Okay? Supervision is the highest importance in the receiving department where the inventory asset arrives and is lodged in by receiving clerks. So the supervision hindi naman po lang sa receiving department to, no? Sa lahat ng departamento, supervision is a must. Okay, however, for the purchasing and payment cycle, it is important that the supervision is highly important in the receiving because malaki pong bagay yung ginagawa niya in verification, on validating the existence of the purchase order and examination of any defects. So, if the receiving department let the inventory enter, I mean, if the receiving inventory let the orders enter the company without validating the existence of the valid purchase order and verification the purchase order to what he receives and examining defects, it will incur losses on the part of the company. Baka kasi babayaran na sa receiving report, ito lang, and then the purchase order, ito karami dapat, pero binigay sa'yo konti lang. And then, the purchasing department will prepare checks, okay, I mean the disbursing department will prepare checks in accordance with the purchase order, and then pag binayaran na lahat, hindi na i-deliver lahat. So that is a very crucial thing. However, hindi naman po nangyayari yon kasi pag mautak naman si disbursement, yung usually gagawa niya ng cheque, kung magkano lang yung na-receive, yun lang ang gagawa ng cheque. Hindi siya nagde-depend sa purchase order. Okay. Next is another control in the purchasing and payment activities is yung tinatawag nating accounting records. The accounting records. Okay. Why accounting records is a control on the purchasing and payment activities? Accounting records will give us audit trails for the purpose of audit review. Okay, the accounting records will provide us the story happened on that particular transaction. Okay, audit trail, that's the purpose of accounting records. Okay, and then the another is access controls, access controls. Access controls, okay, dapat the access control, the controls on the preparation of check, on the preparation of requisition form, on the preparation of disbursement of the purchase order are limited to those authorized only. Okay, so that is very important that the accessibility of each step, for example, in the preparation of the disbursement voucher, dapat limitado lang ang pwedeng makagawa. Kasi pag marami ang pwedeng makagawa, baka may tendency gagawa ng disbursement voucher na hindi naman authorized. Okay? So, it is very important that in the preparation of documents, it is limited only to to persons that is authorized to prepare that particular document. Okay? So that is access control as a control on the purchasing and payment activities. Another is independent verification. Okay, independent verification. Independent verification. Okay? Independent verification. Okay. For a good control on the purchasing and payment activities, the documents can be verified by an independent party. Okay, So, for example, yung mga reports, no? For example, the accounts payable department would like to verify the the legit the whether or not the purchase order or the requisition form is legitimate. Even though he is not part of those department, he can easily verify that. Okay? Kasi outside naman siya sa department. So, ibig sabihin, it is very important that the 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 documents can easily verified by an independent party. Yun po yung ibig sabihin nun. O for example, the treasurer, before he signs the check, he can easily verify whether the documents attached to that check are valid, legitimate, and subject for, I mean, approved already. So, um, if it will provide an independent verification on the part of the treasurer, that is a good control, okay, for the purchasing and payment activities. Okay. Last is the information technology, okay, the IT in the processing of of purchase and disbursement. Disbursement. Okay? IT in processing purchase and disbursement. A good information technology used on the purchasing and cash disbursement processes is a good control. Okay? Because, okay, for example, paying online is a good control. Ibig sabihin, if the if we pay the supplier via its bank account, okay, that's a good control na ibig sabihin, the payment that we made is actually for the supplier, not for other person, no? Okay? Not for other person. And, okay, for example, another is utilizing barcodes for the inventory. Okay? If there are barcodes on certain inventories, okay, that this inventory is actually kasi using the barcodes, we can easily determine that ito ay recorded immediately to the system of ours, of the company I mean. So, an IT information, a good IT, no, a good IT on the processing of, of payment and disbursement is a good control for purchasing and disbursing. Okay, there are certain risks, no? So we have those control to um, prevent certain risks, no? Okay. Um, Somehow, no, some of the risks were already tackled. Singit-singit na po. We have what we call the preventing of stockouts and excess of inventory, ordering, okay, and unnecessary items, purchasing goods of inferior quality and buying from unauthorized personnel, suppliers I mean, and kickbacks. Those are most common, no? Ako, most common risk on the purchasing and payment activities. So, um, for additional discussions, no, I hope you read already the materials that was posted in the canvas. Okay, for hard